It started with silence. Not the kind that fills a room after an argument, or the calm that follows laughter, but the uneasy, unnatural silence that hums beneath ordinary moments. Ethan Parker first noticed it on a Tuesday evening in late September. Claire sat across the kitchen island, her phone glowing faintly against the dim light of their home. The smell of rosemary chicken filled the air, but she hadn't touched her plate. Her fingers danced over her screen, a faint smile flickering across her face, the kind of smile that used to be his. "Who's that?" Ethan asked casually, keeping his voice even as he dried the dishes. "No one." "Work stuff," she said quickly, flipping her phone face down. He nodded, but the pit in his stomach tightened. Claire was a nurse at WakeMed Hospital, and late texts weren't unusual, except for the way her cheeks flushed as she tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear, like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. That night, Ethan lay awake beside her. The cicadas buzzed outside, and moonlight fell through the blinds in slanted lines across their bed. Claire's breathing was steady, too steady, like someone pretending to sleep. He turned toward her, studying the faint rise and fall of her shoulder. Something had changed. He couldn't name it yet, but he could feel it pressing against the air between them. They'd been married 9 years. Their love story wasn't extraordinary: college sweethearts, a modest wedding in Chapel Hill, a starter home on a quiet cul-de-sac called Brookhaven Lane. Ethan worked as an insurance appraiser, steady and methodical. Claire was the vibrant one, the kind who made people feel seen. Together, they were a picture of suburban perfection, until the cracks appeared. It started small. She stopped leaving her coffee cup beside his in the morning. Stopped humming in the shower. Stopped looking him in the eye when she said goodbye. One evening, Ethan found her standing in the driveway after work, staring off into the trees behind their backyard. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said softly. "Just thinking." She didn't elaborate, and he didn't press. But when she went inside, Ethan stayed there for a moment, listening to the whisper of wind through the pine trees, a sound that suddenly felt like a warning. A week later, while cleaning up the kitchen, Ethan heard her phone buzz on the counter. A name appeared: Liam, admin. He frowned. He'd never heard of a Liam at her hospital. He didn't open the message, not yet. But later, when she was in the shower, the thought gnawed at him until he finally gave in. He picked up her phone, his heart pounding. The text read: "Same time tomorrow. I can't stop thinking about you." Ethan's throat went dry. He scrolled up. The earlier messages were deleted. Only that one remained, like a breadcrumb she hadn't noticed. When Claire came out, wrapped in a towel, he forced a smile. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "Just thinking." He used her own words. She didn't notice. That night, he stood by the window, watching her car's reflection in the dark glass, wondering how long she'd been lying to him. The next few days blurred into a slow, painful routine. Ethan began keeping track: her shifts, her routes, her excuses. He noticed she now wore perfume to work, even on overnight shifts. She locked her phone. She started staying late, saying the hospital was short-staffed. On Thursday, Ethan took the day off. He followed her car as she left for her shift. She didn't go toward WakeMed. Instead, she turned onto I-440 and drove toward a quiet area near Falls Lake. She pulled into a small Airbnb cottage tucked behind trees, and another car was already there. Ethan's chest tightened. He couldn't see much from the road, but when a tall man stepped out and greeted her with a kiss, it felt like the air had been sucked out of his lungs. He didn't confront them. Not yet. He drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. When Claire came home that night, she smelled faintly of cologne, not his. For 3 nights, Ethan rehearsed what he'd say. But every time he looked at her, words died in his throat. She laughed at dinner, kissed his cheek, even asked about his work, as if nothing had changed. The lies came so easily to her that it almost made him doubt what he'd seen. Almost. One night, after she fell asleep, he scrolled through her messages again. Everything had been wiped clean: photos, chats, call logs. She was careful now. But not careful enough. Her photo gallery had a recently deleted folder. Inside, a single picture: a man's arm wrapped around her shoulders, a pine forest in the background. She was smiling, the same smile she used to give him. Ethan sat in the dark, staring at the photo until sunrise. Ethan was not a violent man. He was quiet, thoughtful, patient, the kind who fixed things rather than broke them. But something inside him cracked open. He started pretending, too. He smiled at breakfast. He kissed her goodbye. He told her he had extra work trips. And all the while, he planned. He rented a small cabin, near the same area she met her lover. He set up a hidden camera in the corner, just in case she decided to use it again. And one afternoon, when she told him she was working a double shift, he parked a few hundred yards away and waited. At 4:12 p.m., her car arrived. Then his. Through the lens, Ethan watched the two of them embrace. His chest burned, his vision blurred, but he didn't move. Not yet. He needed the truth to become undeniable. Later that week, Ethan confronted her, gently at first. I feel like something's off lately, he said as they sat on the porch, cicadas humming around them. She looked down at her wine. You're imagining things. He smiled sadly. Then why do you delete your messages? Her eyes flashed up, fear, then defiance. Don't go through my phone. Who's Liam? Silence. The kind that crushes the air out of a room. She stood abruptly, her voice shaking. You don't understand, Ethan. Things have been hard. You needed him, he interrupted. For the first time, she didn't deny it. Tears welled up, but he felt nothing. Only cold. I'm sorry, she whispered. He nodded slowly. So am I. Claire moved into her sister's house for a while. Ethan told neighbors it was just a rough patch. But inside, he was unraveling. The house was too quiet. Her perfume still lingered in the sheets. He tried to work, but every corner of their home felt haunted by her lies. He watched the video he'd recorded, once, then again. He memorized the sound of her laugh as the man touched her. It became a sickness, an obsession. One night, after too many drinks, Ethan sent her the footage. No words. Just the file. She called him in tears, begging him not to ruin her life. He didn't answer. The next morning, he uploaded the video anonymously to her hospital's HR inbox, labeled professional misconduct. Claire lost her job within a week. The man, Liam, was a doctor, married with 2 kids. When the scandal broke, his wife filed for divorce. His career collapsed. Claire showed up at their house one evening, mascara streaked down her face. Why did you do this? She cried. You've destroyed everything. Ethan stood in the doorway, expressionless. I didn't destroy it, he said quietly. You did. She tried to reach for him, but he stepped back. I loved you, he said. And you buried that under lies. Her sobs echoed down the porch as she walked away. Months passed. The house remained the same, but the air had changed, empty, sterile, still. Ethan sometimes walked to the edge of the woods behind their home, where the tall pines whispered softly in the wind. That was where he buried the wedding ring she'd left behind, beneath a stone, beneath the roots. He still thought about her sometimes, the way she used to laugh, the way she looked at him before it all fell apart. But then he'd remember the cottage, the video, the lies. On a quiet evening, he sat on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the trees. A new family had moved in next door, laughter spilling from their backyard, kids chasing fireflies. He smiled faintly. Some things break and never mend. Others, you learn to live without. He whispered to the wind, "Goodbye, Claire," and turned back inside, leaving the pines to keep their secrets.